Burrow had 3 game-winning drives. So how come?
And I'm not.
Okay.
No, don't do that because I did not discredit Joe Burrow for his runs.
How come when I say Joe Burrow has 3 game-winning drives, it is looked down upon versus Stafford?
Who's looking down upon it?
Joe is looking down upon it. He's definitely looking down upon it.
Joe Burrow's the lead quarterback. He's top 10.
There's an excuse for everything Burrow does. It's because the Titans were bad. It's
Joe
because
Burrow is
the Raiders weren't that good, actually.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Titans were very, very poor.
Thank you.
They were not that good. Raiders, they almost lost.
You picked the Raiders, bro.
You
picked the Titans.
Yep.
You picked the Chiefs.
I understand.
Yo, bro.
Just like you did every single game against the Rams, too, bro. Like, you got it wrong, too.
Yeah,
you got the Super Bowl wrong, too.
And
you picked the Niners. You picked the Bucs.
You want to know what's different?
You picked Oakland, too.
But then I picked Tennessee.
Thank you.
But the difference is that I am not then saying these teams are bad in hindsight. I picked the Raiders, and I stand by that. I understand the Raiders were a good football team. The
Raiders were very close to beating them.
Not mutually exclusive, bro.
You picked against the Bengals every game, and you're discrediting every team that you picked in favor of.
They are not mutually exclusive. I could think Joe Burrow is an elite top 10 quarterback and also realize the teams he played for playoff teams are pretty mid. In the grand scheme of things, yes, these are above average teams. But if you were to rank all the teams, all 14 teams that made the playoffs, the Raiders and Titans would be bottom 3.
Ooh, Eagles, Steelers. Then I would probably put those 2 teams.
Bottom 4, excuse me.
The Rams faced the Cardinals with an
division
injured
rival,
D-Hop.
regardless.
But the Cardinals, second half of the season.
Come on.
The second half of the season collapsing like that, we knew the Cardinals weren't that big of a
division rival.
The Eagles were arguably better than the Raiders last year, too.
No.
Nah, Raiders were really hot to end the season.
And Derek Carr's a significantly better quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Versus Tampa, great win. I thought Tampa would win. But we know that the game-winning drive Stafford had in that game.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it should have never even been that close.
Why? Because his skill position players turned the ball over.
I'm not saying it's Stafford's fault. I'm just saying the game shouldn't have been that close. I'm just saying the game shouldn't have been that close.
And a snap over his head. That's why they lost 3 fumbles and a snap over his head.
Regardless of that fact, you're up 27-3. You blow the lead. Momentum's telling me Matthew Stafford should not be in a position where
just like
his confidence.
I'm not bringing up Matt Ryan. Sorry.
His confidence isn't there.
You're in love with
You understand what I'm saying? That his confidence should not be there.
Yeah.
However,
make a good point.
My point being is he still stood 10 toes down.
Yes,
and
made a
threw
beautiful
2 beautiful passes.
What you're not getting though is that I am not discrediting Matthew Stafford for that game-winning drive. No, I didn't. I just said
he shouldn't have been in the position.
The team shouldn't have been in that position.
Okay, so
the same way when we have talked about Joe Burrow and I mentioned the game-winning drive versus the Titans, you say, "Oh, it only happened because of the Tannehill interception."
But that's
so the game-winning.
true.
Okay, while that's true, it's also true that Stafford shouldn't have been in that game-winning drive position either. If you want to say that for Burrow, you got to say that for Stafford.
All right.
But
listen,
I just think you could also look at it as
Tannehill
Tannehill had a bad year last year, and the Rams just had this really fluky scenario where Cam Akers fumbled twice and Cooper Kupp fumbled. And Akers fumbled twice.
And Tannehill had,
and one time was on the 1 yard line.
And Tannehill had arguably his worst game of the season.
But Tannehill was mid
that last year.
Yeah. He was a great game manager. Let's not disrespect. He was definitely
Tannehill, to be fair, didn't have much to work with the entire season.
But this game, there was no excuse. A.J. Brown was healthy. Derrick Henry was in the lineup. He was injured. I agree. But even Donta Foreman was still in, and he played very well.
Foreman should have got more touches.
And then the NFC Championship, the Niners were a great team. They were red hot. But the quarterback's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
But Niners.
And then Jaquiski Tartt dropped the interception.
Yep. Listen, if your grandmother had balls, she'd be your grandfather.
So what I'm saying is that the NFL, a lot of this stuff happens because of things happen in a flip of a second. A broken play, missed interception, missed opportunity.
Yes.
So why do we hold these moments against Joe Burrow, but with Stafford, we don't mention these moments. 3 game-winning drives. Awesome. Perfect. That's why he's over Burrow. Burrow had 3 game-winning drives in the playoffs as well. He played great in the playoffs as well. He had one of the worst offensive lines.
He played really good.
But
good, because really good is a synonym of great. So he played good.
He played good.
You know, if you want to say that, okay. You want to be on that side, okay.
He had great moments.
Say that.
He had great moments.
The Chiefs,
Joe Burrow,
he
had great moments.
Because you know what? I definitely know for a fact if you put quarterbacks that are not at this top 10 caliber behind that Bengals offense, you don't get their first round exit.
So here's the thing which is crazy. Here we are sitting at this table, all of us agreeing Joe Burrow is a minimum top 10 quarterback. You have him top 10. I have him top 7. You have him top 5 lock. Here we go. Let's all come to consensus. Joe Burrow's good at football.
Yes. He's elite. He's elite. He's an elite quarterback.
I'm being very dry.
I don't know
right
what's
now.
the difference
between
between 7
generic
and 5.
Just get the point across.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, no one here is trying to shit on Joe Burrow.
No, he is. I'm not saying you.
He's
you
not
are.
shit.
Yes, you just said the offensive line is actually average. You're trying to make that argument.
Listen.
Like, I think that's
I wasn't hearing it.
Ridiculous.
I wasn't hearing it.
Did you watch the playoffs with your eyes? The offensive
they were terrible
line,
against
the offensive. They were terrible every game. The offensive line was terrible.
It's funny because when the Bengals made all of these moves, I saw someone tweet, if the Bengals had this offensive line, Joe Burrow's completing that pass to Jamar Chase last play of the game to get a touchdown. Nobody's fucking guarding Aaron
Here's another
Donald.
thing, too. That's
when you picked the Raiders over the Bengals, what was your reasoning?
Solely because you were talking trash on Derek Carr. He told me specifically.
Yeah.
But
solely because you were talking trash on Derek Carr.
Not the Max Crosby matchup.
It's funny because,
you probably didn't want me to out you there,
no,
but
it's
at the same time, I'm defending
I had the Bengals winning, and we were going between this Derek Carr and Matt Ryan debate.
On the show, you had the Bengals winning.
Yes, I had the Bengals winning, and we had this Matt Ryan versus Derek Carr debate. You were talking all this shit about Derek Carr, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go with the Raiders.
I didn't talk shit about Derek Carr. I just said there's not a huge gap between Matt Ryan. Yes, that's not talking shit about him.
Ridiculous to say.
That's not talking shit about
it.
Like, your definition of talking shit versus what actually it is just two completely different things.
Do you want to hear these pressured percentages? You asked for it earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Because I don't know, I don't know what really bad offensive line plays. If we're just going to look at PFF numbers, they were terrible. If you look at how many times he was actually pressured, which is an actual quantifiable number, you could watch the game and go back instead of someone looking at their eyes saying, did this offensive lineman play good or bad? I'm a quantitative guy. You know, maybe I'm wrong.
But the number before
you're making the argument that the Bengals offensive line wasn't one of the worst. That's the argument you're making?
All I'm saying is
according to the numbers.
I'm putting out information I have never heard anyone talk about ever.
It's true.
So we're going to give the top. I'll go up to Burrow, who's 14th. 1 to 14. Zach Wilson, Darnold, Bridgewater, Matt Ryan, Justin Fields, the top 5. I think we all agree those offensive lines are putrid. Russell Wilson, 6. Brissett, Miami, only a few games. Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, Wentz, Josh Allen, Taylor Heineke, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow. 1 through 14.
I didn't hear.
Where was the average?
The average
you said the Bengals were average.
The average would be 16th, which is 23%. Burrow was 14th at 24%.
Read me the 3 teams above that and 3 teams below that.
You had Buffalo, Washington, Detroit, and below it you had Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants. Like some of these, like Daniel Jones only played 11 games.
So like Cleveland, according to that, is a below average offensive line.
No, they're in terms of pass protection, letting people pressure the quarterback. They were 16th. They were average.
Okay. So overall, they were an average offensive line. What is that?
Well, this is just passing. This is just passing. Pressures allowed when you're going for a drop back.
Okay. What were the 3 teams above that again?
Washington, Buffalo,
Detroit.
All offensive lines I would deem good.
I would say Detroit's good.
Yeah. They dealt with injuries.
Washington, in between. I would say Buffalo's offensive line was not great last season. It was not that good last season.
Detroit dealt with some injuries, though, too.
Correct. That's true.
Like, we're going into this year, we're expecting Detroit fully healthy to be one of the best offensive lines.
We've sat here and we've spoken about how Josh Allen's offensive line's not that great, so I'm not shocked. But I will say...
And some of this has to do with Taylor Heineke is not the best quarterback. He probably
allows... there's a lot of bad QBs in the beginning.
They probably they hold on the ball too long. They should get the ball away. That has to do with it as well. But when you're looking at these numbers, the quantifiable numbers, 24% is about league average with Joe Burrow.
So the same way a bad quarterback like Taylor Heineke makes these numbers look worse in Washington's favor, you don't believe Burrow, who's a great quarterback, made the Bengals offensive line look significantly better?
It's possible, but if you also look at the guys who are in the top 10, you know, some of the best quarterbacks, Brady was by far and away the least pressured quarterback at 11%. The offensive line's phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but Brady also known for having one of the quickest releases in the game. You have Stafford, Mac Jones, Ben, who had the shortest yards per attempt in like NFL history. Jimmy G, again, short yard per attempt. Dak, Herbert, Dalton only played like 4 games. Kyler, Tua, Davis Mills, Carr, Mahomes, Rodgers, so these guys that were in the top 10 in terms of being percentage the least are also some of the best quarterbacks in the league. Some of it also to do with this.
I'm glad that you mentioned Tua in that.
Some of it also has to do with scheme, like with Miami.
Correct.
Probably not getting pressure as much because you're getting the ball out as quick. Same thing with the Steelers. Big Ben he was averaging like 5 yards per attempt. So it has to do with scheme plus quarterback play. But
what site is that from? From PFF?
Pro Football Reference.
What number do you have Joe Burrow? if you had to say?
Are
you putting Lamar over Joe Burrow?
I have Lamar over Joe Burrow. Yeah.
So do you have Joe Burrow at 10?
I have him at 9. Last time we did, I have him at 9, but I have to go back and I'm dropping my quarterback ranks. I meant to do it this week.
Tough.
Probably
Okay.
next week.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
so
Joel Dehls.
And so you have Stafford over him.
Yeah.
You have Herbert over him.
Yep.
Are
Lamar.
you taking Russell Wilson?
I'd probably have Burrow over him for now.
So Russ at 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
according to Football Outsiders, the Bengals were the 31st ranked offensive line in terms of pass protection. Pro Football Reference versus Football Outsiders and PFF, what is more reliable?
Well, I could look at we're just looking at PFF's just overall grades. They gave the tackle a 58, the guard a 57. That's what we're looking at. I don't have PFF's pressure percentage in front of me.
Okay, we can also look at premium stats, and we can look at the pass blocking for the offenses, and you go and the Bengals are 29th. In terms of pass blocking grade. They're 29th in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, listen, we are not. I'm not going to. We're all collectively not going to sit here and say that Cincinnati's.
Well, you and I.
Well, listen, Joel. True or false? The Bengals' offensive line in the playoffs was abysmal.
Yeah. No, all season. It's not just the playoffs. It was all season
for sure. But it was highlighted in the playoffs
because
that it was
more
horrible.
people watched the game.
Fair enough. But according to these percentage, which is listen, you're telling me it's a sound number, correct? Like it's
average.
This is you could watch this. This was,
and I already know the comments are going to call me a casual. They'll probably call me a cuck like they did last time.
I attribute the percentages being there because Burrow got rid of the ball quick. That's what
he held on to the ball one of the longest in the NFL.
If you're getting out quick, because Tua's offensive line, we can all sit here and agree the worst in the league was among the.
He was like like 8.
But did you ever listen to Joe Burrow's appearance on the Full Send podcast?
Bits and pieces. I didn't see the full thing.
He talked about why the sack numbers look worse than they did. A lot of the sacks that Joe Burrow took and a lot of the times that he held on to the ball was because it was a situation where he wasn't in field position to kick a field goal, so he'd rather take the sack to give the punter more room, so it's a good sack in hindsight. Although the numbers show it's bad, Burrow took good sacks and threw the ball away in situations where he should have threw it away. And that's why those numbers may look like that, may look skewed. But even with all those numbers, PFF still had the Bengals as a 29th ranked pass blocking offensive line. They still had Joe Burrow as the number one graded quarterback amongst all quarterbacks in the NFL, and he had the number one grade when kept in a clean pocket.
But just the thing about the grade, and then we can move on if you want to. Would you say that he was a better quarterback with your eyes than Aaron Rodgers last season?
No.
So what does this grade matter to you?
It matters because it shows that Burrow was still an elite player.
But no one's here saying that he's not.
I have some PFF stats.
PFF to me is a benchmark of where a player is around, and I believe
so. He's
Burrow,
around the top 3, top 2.
He's a top 5 quarterback, locked in stamp.
So Josh Allen or Joe Burrow.
Josh
According
Allen.
To this,
I think
right?
Josh. Well, I think it's a benchmark around where they are. Joe Burrow is an elite level quarterback.
Joe Burrow, or Tom Brady.
Going forward, Joe Burrow. And even going into this season, I would take Joe Burrow over Tom.
So going into this season.
Yes, Joe Burrow over Tom. Yes.
So you have him ranked like 4th then, probably.
Yeah, he's a top 5 quarterback to me.
So Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow is actually a conversation?
No. Mahomes is in a tier of his own with Allen.
Real quick,
Rodgers.
I went PFF premium stats. Pick a side. We could afford that nowadays. Under pressure, Joe Burrow, in terms of percentage of dropbacks, was pressured the 19th most. PFF.
Okay. Well, I attribute most of that to being Joe Burrow.
Listen, I'll tell you what. I respect your approach at this argument.
Thank you.
I will respect
Even though
it.
you're
However,
wrong.
Just because
I will disagree.
Okay.
It's very easy to come on here and say what everyone has said for the last year about they are the
Which is
worst.
why I'm going to sit here and I'm going to respect.
It's right to an extent. To an extent.
What do you mean to an extent? They were one of the worst offensive lines, bro.
Yes, but what we're saying they're one of the worst offensive lines by a number that we really cannot quantify. We're saying either on PFF's numbers, which say it's someone, they have a group of people who look at the game and say he got a 60. Now, it's much more complicated than that. I'm dumbing it down. I'm sure they look at a bunch of different things, but PFF goes and say he had a 60 this game. There's no real way to quantify that looking by numbers. If you're on here, I don't know how Football Outsiders does theirs, but if you're on here and you look about numbers, the amount of times he was pressured, something we could go back and say he was pressured 7 times, 9 times, 8 times. He was pressured the 19th most percentage of times compared to other quarterbacks.
19th most. That's on PFF, right?
Yes.
So, first of all, 19th most is still below average. That's still a bad offensive line.
19th most, that means he's in the top 10. in terms, he's pressured the 19th most amount of times.
Correct. That means that he's not pressured that much.
If he was pressured the most amount of times or the 5th most, that's bad. 19th actually shows a little bit above average.
That's from PFF. So even with PFF taking that number into account, the pass blocking grade for them overall was still 29.
And that's where I get confused with PFF's pass blocking grade, because if you're allowing the 19th most percent of pressures, why is the offensive line terrible? That could do. I mean, this is just pass blocking, so I'm not going to bring run blocking into it, but I'm sure they look at a bunch of different things. I just want to dumb it down to a very simple form. How many times were you pressured?
And
it's 19th most.
The final 2021 offensive line rankings, according to PFF,
they were like 31st.
They weren't 31st. It was 32 was the Dolphins, 31 Carolina, 30 New York, 29 Houston, 28 Las Vegas, 27 Atlanta, 26 Pittsburgh, 25 Seattle, 24 Jacksonville, 23 Minnesota, 22 Chicago, 21 Ravens, 20 Cincinnati. They were up to. So this is just a synopsis of what they said. The offensive line vastly improved from a season ago, but the last few weeks of the regular season showed how fragile that is and how quickly it can become a problem if injuries arise. Jonah Williams was impressive, but he has a tendency to lose badly when he does lose. He allowed 8 sacks. And Quinn Spain has played his best football, but not one member of the line played all 17 games, and the play of the backups has been problematic in some cases. Of the 11 players the team has used for 50 or more snaps, 7 of them carry sub-58 PFF grades. So
the end of season, they're ranked as the 20th best offensive line.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not the worst in the league.